Good afternoon to you. Mark Suttoth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your hurricane outlook and discussion as we head into the Labor Day weekend here. This is Friday, the 4th of September, and hopefully a long weekend for most people. Having Monday off might be a nice thing. So I figured I'd show you what's going on out there in the tropics, just in case you were wondering, do I have anything to worry about? Well, the short answer is no, not really. But there are a few things to talk about. We do have what is now Tropical Depression Fred. I think this is still going to be around even when we start talking about things again next week, and I'll show you why I think that in a moment. And then we have Invest Area 91L, just off the coast of Africa here, the next area to watch. And this is probably going to become Tropical Storm Grace at some point in time. We shall see. Looking at a satellite picture to kind of broaden the perspective a little bit, this is the leftover junk associated with what was once Erica. Came off of Africa all the way over, kind of defied all those forecasts, did some weird things. Now it's kind of sitting out here and really not doing much. We'll see what happens as it drifts around. None of the global models indicating that it is going to develop into anything, and so it probably won't, even though it's in an area that typically would be favored since the deep tropics are shut down. But sometimes you just don't get development for whatever reason. They haven't quite figured that out yet. Why doesn't every cluster of thunderstorms over 85-degree water develop? Well, that's a mystery still. What's that kick? Solve that and you got yourself one heck of a career ahead of you. This is the leftover circulation of Fred. Pretty vigorous skeletal remains, I guess you could say, and just a little bit of meat left on the bones here. But I do think that this is going to regenerate some as it meanders around out here over the open Atlantic over the next several days. The GFS indicating that, and the water temperatures out this way are a little bit warmer than they should be, and so it has a chance. It just basically has to fight off these bouts of shear that are coming across and kind of tearing the top off of it. And then just coming into view is 91L. We can see that a lot better on the wider shot here. And there's Fred, what's left of the circulation. And then here is Invest Area 91L, down here to the south and west of Cape Verde itself. Nice curled up look to it. Central dense overcast trying to develop convection around the center, and decent outflow overall. Maybe just a little dry air to the north, but this will move along in a fairly favorable environment. You can also see the intertropical convergence zone a little bit more active now. Certainly it is over Africa. So this has a chance to become Tropical Storm Grace and move on off towards the west or west-northwest with time. The general envelope of direction here, west-northwest, and the consensus model TVCA picking that up rather nicely. So still several days away from the islands if it ever were to get there. And if this develops into a tropical storm, like Fred sitting out here meandering for a while, this could add several more ACE points, accumulated cyclone energy, or ACE, and draw that in here, ACE. And that's the amount of energy expended from these tropical systems each year. Normally in the Atlantic Basin we have a score of about 104 or so. Some say it's in the upper 90s, mid 90s. It just depends on what paper you read and research you look at. But around 100, 104, something like that. And a way to look at it, let's think about a basketball team. Okay, maybe like the Chicago Bulls, right? The Orlando Magic, and they have an average that they score each year, whatever that is. 112 points, 88 points a game, whatever it is. And so that's what they're expected to do in a certain season. They have an average score of X points, and so the year coming up, maybe they have a lot of players that are injured, and so their expected average is supposed to drop. In some cases it might be substantial if there's a lot of loss due to injury or whatever. Trying to mix sports with hurricanes here, so bear with me. And then there's years where they may have a lot of really stellar players and they're all just on all firing on all cylinders, and the score is higher. Well, it works that way in the Atlantic Basin. Sometimes your score can come in lower than the average because of factors like we're seeing this year. And most of the experts were predicting anywhere from 35 to 40. Terrible writing here, but you get the idea. For the total ace for this year, where are we right now? We're at about 22, or maybe closer to 23 now. And so the stronger a hurricane is, or a tropical cyclone in this situation, the quicker those ace points go up. So it's the same thing. A basketball team may shoot a bunch of free throws and have a low score, but they still win the game. Or they shoot a bunch of three-pointers and it's lights out and they have 116 points on the board. So again, the same thing with hurricanes. The stronger the hurricane, the higher the ace points rack up in that short amount of time that we call the hurricane season. So there you go. So I think that Grace, heck, let's say it gets named like somewhere over here in the next 24 hours, and it's got 3 or 4 days, and maybe more, and so it can add 5 or 6, 7 ace points. And then we're going to be real close to that 35 to 40, and we still have all of September and October to go through. That's my point. All that talk just for that. And, you see that the models are indicating that it should become a tropical storm here within the next 24 hours. That's the intersection there. And so you got all the rest of this time that it's generating ace points. And that's important to me. I like to track that because the accumulated cyclone energy tells you about the quality of the season. Because you can have a bunch of named storms out there, and they all are very weak, and so you have low ace points even though you had a whole bunch of named storms. Conversely, when there's not a lot of named storms forecast to develop and you exceed the predicted ace value, I like to look and see why, because that can help you to understand perhaps what the next season might be like. Little things like that, I like watching it. So even though these may not hit land and whatever, it is still interesting to watch what happens because of other things going on. It's not always about the impact. Sometimes it's about pure science and the ace impacts, the ace score. Anyway, so there's a broader look. No Saharan air layer to really worry about. Very weak here on the left side of the scale. Now, this is a fairly old, let's see, it was 8 o'clock Eastern time, and I'm recording this 3 hours later. So yeah, it's lost a little convection there, Fred. But again, look at this. You kind of have this envelope of moisture air inside of this dry air pocket. It's kind of like it's inside of its own bubble, Fred is. So I think this will come back a little bit and stay with us for a little while longer. Now, if Grace to be, say I'm already rushing it, comes on out here, check this out. A pretty good area of light upper level winds for the most part, especially north of 10 degrees latitude here. Only about 5 to 10 knots of shear, so that's not too destructive. But out ahead of it, we do have this tropical upper tropospheric trough kind of carved out still, cyclonic flow over here. This can change, we know that. It's not stagnant. It is dynamic, and it could change, and we'll see what happens. Still a ways away. Grace is probably to be. I keep saying that. It's going to be Grace. You'll see. Still probably a week away from the islands here. 5, 6, 7 days, something like that, right? Now, the shear change, I thought this is interesting. Might be the first time I've shown this map this year. This is the 24-hour change of wind shear. And if you can figure out what's what here, the east coast of the United States, Gulf, etc. And 91L sitting out here. There's Fred. So check it out. Over the last 24 hours, there has been a pretty remarkable increase in shear right over the top of Fred. And the wind shear itself in the 30 to 40 knot range, pretty close to that. And but just north of there, a decrease in the vertical wind shear where it's down to 0 to 10 knots. So if Fred can get up in here, it'll be around for a while. And then look too where 91L is headed across this region, a decrease in the shear values over the last 24 hours, and those shear values fairly low. So there's a chance that we could have grace by sometime over the weekend, and then we'll just have to see how far west it can travel. This is going to have to let up for anything to get from the East Atlantic into the western part of the basin. Now we know from what Erica did down here at Dominica that it truly does only take one. And for those folks down there, they're still dealing with that terrible disaster from Erica's flash flooding that took place when a big convective blow-up went off right over the island and dumped a tremendous amount of rain over a short period of time. Those impacts are small in terms of the geographic area affected. Beyond that, getting something into a major population area this year, it's going to be hard to do. So you never know. Like, what happened to Dominica could happen somewhere else if something were to get through and develop under the right circumstances. So far, at least for this weekend and into Monday, nothing of the sort, nothing to worry about. So even if we do have another storm on the map with grace, no problem. We'll just watch it, and we'll have plenty of time. It won't have any impact on your weekend or your Labor Day holiday coming up on Monday. All right? Again, we're on YouTube, Hurricane Track, and we have an app out there for all of our products. Hurricane Impact is the name of that app, and that's on the App Store and at Google Play. So hit the subscribe button on YouTube, as they say, and if you want us on your iPhone, iPad, iPod, or most Android devices, then grab the Hurricane Impact app, and we'll be in your pocket anywhere you go. Take it or leave it. It could be good or bad, right? Anyhow, have a good weekend. I'm going to try to get to the beach myself. Water temperatures in the lower 80s here off of southeast North Carolina, so I'm going to enjoy that. So I'll take the weekend off for videos, but of course I'll be posting blogs to hurricanetrack.com, and of course those show up in the app as soon as I publish them. So you don't have to be near a computer all the time. You can just pull it up in the app. And then I'll be back Monday with a look at the tropics via the video discussion once again. So be safe out there. I want to see you back here next week. I'm Mark Sudduth for hurricanetrack.com. Thanks as always for your time and your attention, and we'll speak again next week.